systems sit neatly all the time between 6 and 6.2. They hardly ever move. The only time they do move a little bit is when I add a lot more water from the dam down the back, because the water coming straight out of the dam is actually very close to 7 in pH. So when I add that to the system, it'll bump the system pH up for a couple of days, and then it will settle right back down again to 6.2 or 6 without need of any intervention by me. Isn't nature marvellous? Over time, all your systems will tend to gradually drift down in pH, and it can become a bit difficult to try and keep it between 6 and 7. One method that I've found works very well is the addition of eggshells to my system, because eggshell is pure calcium carbonate, and that will help keep my system above 6, because obviously if the system is going into acid, then it will eat away the eggshells as it requires it, and it will lift the pH and keep it just above 6. So an easy way of doing that is get a bit of old pantyhose. Don't pinch your wife's new pantyhose, you'll be in trouble for that. And just cut it up and make a little bag out of it. Now the eggshells that I have here I've saved over a period of time out of the kitchen. And what I've done is I've put them in a ice cream container, and I've put them in the microwave, and I've nuked them in the microwave to kill any bacteria that might be on them. And now I'll load this up with some eggshells. Remember, I've nuked these already in the microwave to kill any bacteria that might be in there. And then I'll just tie the bag off. I could put a lot more in there if I wanted to really fill the bag up. I'll tie that off. I can crush them up a little bit, like so, and I've got a nice little bag of eggshells now. And then I can just bury this in amongst the media. Put it down there in a place where you know where it is, so you can come back and have a look at it in 3 months' time and see how it's going. Another product I could use if I wanted to was go to an aquarium shop and buy some crushed coral. Same idea, it'll do the same job for you. So there's a good tip on how to keep your pH above 6. A common question asked by people is, how many fish can I put in a system, and how many grow beds do I need to balance my fish tank? Because aquaponics is all about balance. We must achieve balance in the system, because that's how nature works. And really in aquaponics what we're doing is employing the best features of nature to provide us with beautiful fish and vegetables, clean organic fish and vegetables for our home. So as a rule of thumb, we find that the number of grow beds to the volume of fish tank, it's actually a volume thing. So if we've got a 1,000 litre tank, for example, we can have 1,000 litres in volume of grow bed. Now that's a good, safe, manageable way to do it, 1-to-1 ratio. You can push it to 3-to-1 actually. In big commercial systems, that's what we do. We build it to a system of three lots of grow beds to 1 ratio of the fish tank. But for domestic systems, 1-to-1 is really good. Actually in this system you can see we've actually got 3 grow beds, and the ratio here is actually only 3/4-to-1. So we could actually put more grow beds on this, quite a number if we wanted to. We can stack another on the side, another on the side, and another on the back if we wanted to make into a really dynamic veggie producing system. Now as to the number of fish we put in a tank, the ratio that I like to work to is 1 fish per 10 litres of water, or 1 fish per 2.5 gallons of water. Some of you might think that's a bit high, but it's not really. Because for example, if we were to start off with this tank here, which is 900 and something litres, which is near enough to 1,000 litres for the mathematics of it, that means with 1 fish per 10 litres, we could put 100 baby fish in here for them to grow out for us to eat. And you might look at the tank and think, oh, that's terrible, that's so crowded. But it's not really, because what happens is the fish don't grow at all the same rate. And as the fish come up towards the 12-month period, you'll find that the heavy eaters, the ones that are the gutses of the family, so to speak, they'll grow much more quickly. So they'll be the first that we'll introduce to the barbecue. So 9 months down the track, we will start taking fish out on a weekly basis to eat the fish. And when we do that, the fish that are left behind will grow up more rapidly, you'll find. A few more fish will grow up rapidly. So we will be harvesting that bunch of fish right down to the last fish for about 4 or 5 months. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Sometimes I get asked by people, a common thing is, someone rings up, they're usually a retiree, their kids have left home, and they've got this beautiful big swimming pool, 50 or even 100,000 litre swimming pool, and they say, wow, I'm into this aquaponics, I'm going to fill it up with fish. The problem with that is, again, is the ratio. Because if you had 100,000 litres of swimming pool filled with fish, which would be wonderful, you would need 100,000 litres of volume of grow bed to balance it. And in most suburban situations, that would be simply impossible. You'd have to knock the house down to put grow beds there. So the scenario of a swimming pool really won't work in an aquaponics situation because you can't get the number of grow beds that you need to balance the system. And I just emphasise over and over again, Mother Nature requires that we have a balance in the system. If you've got an unbalanced system, you'll defeat the entire purpose. You'll have plant growth that's not rigorous, you'll have fish that are not healthy, and that's just not on. We've got these grow beds here that are about 6 to 8 weeks old now, and they're really well established, as you can see, and we've achieved a nice balance with the number of fish we've got in the fish tank, and the fish are growing. And let's ask the question, what happens when the fish grow and they're obviously producing more nutrient? Well, the obvious answer is to add more grow beds. So we've got some beds here that you can see we've just added to this system. Probably a little bit early for us because we've got 150 fish in that tank, but they're still quite small. But we've added these grow beds so that we can cope with the extra nutrient that the fish are going to be producing. And you can see it's already doing very well. Look at the plants, the growth is just beautiful. Now these plants are actually suffering a little bit from lack of nutrient because the fish are so small, and we've just suddenly doubled the capacity of our system by having double the grow beds. So we can assist that a little bit by giving a little dose of sea salt, seaweed extract every day, putting into the system, which is what I do for these beds, to make sure that there's enough nutrient for the plants. But it will come into balance slowly now. As my fish grow, these beds will come into balance and everything will just be great. I would rather have too many grow beds and too many plants than having the other way around, because you can't afford to let your fish water get into a bad state for the fish, because you'll have dead fish or sick fish, and that's not good. If your plants are a little bit yellow, that's a better situation than being the other way, where there's too much nutrient that's not being taken care of. So that's an important point to remember. When in doubt, add more grow beds, because you just simply can't go wrong by doing that. I should point out though that if I was to do a mass planting of say one crop, and I did that when I first started, I'd put a whole lot of corn in. And the result is then that I'd harvest it all at once, and suddenly you'd have grow beds with nothing in them. That's just not good for an aquaponic system, because all of a sudden you're going to have a big imbalance in the nutrient uptake of your system. So what you need to do, and what I'm still learning to do, I must be honest, is learning to plant a variety and trying to plant just a few so that I harvest something every other day. And I've never got a grow bed that's totally empty, and I really don't often have a grow bed that's totally full either. So you can keep rotating your crops, hence the need for more grow beds. There's never enough grow beds, I can tell you, because there's never enough fish. You always want more. I'd just like to talk to you about shading your aquaponics system. Some people do forget about the importance of that, and in an ideal world I would say that every circumstance you need a greenhouse of some sort or another, because your system works much better if you've got protection for it. If we were to get a lot of rain and our system was in the open, then we would have quite a big disturbance of the nutrient balance in our system, and that's not good. Actually, the fish wouldn't mind a lot of fresh water, that's for sure, but the garden beds would be disturbed and the nutrient balance would be thrown out. And besides that, you may have some flooding, you may have overflowing, you may have fish escape, all sorts of things can happen if the system is not covered. And in Australia, we've got probably the three main fish that people like to raise in tanks. There's silver perch, jade perch, and perhaps barramundi, and even Murray cod. Murray cod and barramundi have got this terrible habit of eating their friends. So when you raise Murray cod and barramundi, you have to really be very careful about the way you do it, and that's another whole subject in itself actually, to stop them from eating themselves. But the safest fish to raise are jade perch and silver perch. Jade perch in particular are a wonderful fish because they grow out quite evenly in size, they grow quite quickly, they don't try to eat each other, and they actually eat, as well as eating worms and pellets and things like that, they absolutely love your spare lettuce leaves and other kind of greenery that you throw into the tank. So you can give the fish quite easily a really nice balanced diet if you're raising jade perch and silver perch. Look at that! That's a beautiful silver perch, weighing about 1.5, 1.7 kilos. This fish is about 2 years old, slightly less than 2 years old. It comes from the hatchery as a fingerling about